You're listening to Empire by Design, episode 73.
Hey, I'm Katie White, coach, consultant, transformation facilitator, action taker, empire builder, and this is Empire by Design. In this show, we're building empires, we're sharing stories, and we're getting up close and personal on the strategies that make an empire in today's online world. Get all the show notes, past episodes and more at katiewyatt.me. For now, settle in for the ride.
Hello, Empire Builders. I have had my extra strong English breakfast tea today and I am excited. In this episode, we are going back, sort of, but not, to episode number 1 of my show. No, don't go back. We're not really. I have invited the guests from my very first episode, the Merrymaker Sisters, Emma and Carla Pappas, stars, to come back on the show. My podcast and business has changed, their business has changed, and they have a merry podcast. And so I thought, hey, it is time to chat again. We are going to get stuck in and talk about changing our business, leaving paleo behind, which I have, but they've done it much more publicly than me, motivation and flow, email automation, and gratitude. It is like the perfect blend of business strategy, tactics, and woo-woo. So grab your extra strong English breakfast tea or something lighter and settle in for the ride. Hey Empire Builders, before we get stuck in, I did want to have a quick chat to you and share a few fun things. I'm really pumped today because, not just because of my English breakfast tea, but because my favourite biz podcast host, and she's actually my business and podcast mentor, Natalie Ekdahl of the Biz Chicks podcast, recently invited me to guest host her show for her 3-year podiversary, and I interviewed her. It was so much fun. It was definitely something, if you're a podcaster, that I suggest you try out, getting someone to interview you as the host of your show. It was epic. And I was just really chuffed that Natalie asked me. I mean, Inc.com named Natalie as one of the top 5 podcasts for female entrepreneurs this year, and she's been listed in a whole lot of other great articles and lists. Things are just going gangbusters for her. So I was so glad to be part of it. And I'd love for you to show the love to Natalie and to me by having a listen and subscribing to her show. You won't regret it. It is at bizchicks.com/251. And I've also made a very, very, very big and scary New Year's resolution, and that is to hit 100,000 downloads on my podcast in 2017. Eek, 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 eek. It is so scary because I'm not even a third of the way there. And the only way that I'll be able to do this is with you, dear listener, my favorite person in the whole wide world. And you are the person that I create this for. You are the person that I am imagining every time I sit in front of my microphone. And so I hope that you might be up for helping out an empire builder. So here are some of the ways that you could share the love and help me grow the podcast audience. First of all, subscribe to the show. If you are not already subscribed to the show in iTunes, definitely, pause now and just go and do it. Just hit subscribe. That helps me. Subscriber numbers helps massively. The next thing you could do if you're feeling extra generous is to leave a review in iTunes. And that would just be super fabulous because that helps me find more listeners organically, because iTunes will then show my podcast to more women like you. The next thing you could do is pick your favorite episode and share it with an empire builder friend. Or if you have a blog or a podcast or a YouTube show or you run events, interview me for your show or your blog, or I'll speak at your event. especially if it's in Melbourne, because that's where I am. But seriously, I'm going to be in Brisbane in May for Artful Business Conference. I'm very close to Sydney and I'm up in Sydney very, very regularly. Please let me know if I can be part of providing service to your audience this year. And another idea, if you really, really, really wanted to go the extra mile, was you could write a list post or do a list post episode of your favorite business podcasts and include Empire by Design in the list. How cool would that be? These are just some of the ways that you could help me achieve 100,000 downloads in 2017. And I would be so, so super grateful. If I make it, I'm totally rocking a party. And make sure that you let me know that you have been part of the hashtag 100K Empire Army. I can't do this alone, and I hope that you will join me. I'm so, so grateful to you for your help, Empire Builders. This will be our Empire victory, our Empire party. And now over to Carla and Emma. Let's get merrymaking.
Hello, Merrymaker Sisters. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here.
I'm so pumped to have you back. You were like my first interview and I'm cringing when I think about it. But, you know, no podcaster ever wants to share their first interview. But I've wanted you back on the show for actually quite a few months, and I will explain why. But then we got to meet in real life at We Are Podcast, which was so cool. And so I'm
cool.
It was just the best event. And I'm now just so excited to talk to you today because you are part of the rebranded podcast of mine, which is all about building an empire in your own way. And you've been doing exactly that for 2 years. So awesome.
Well, we're really excited and thanks for having us again. It's always like nice to come back and chat again. The second interview is always better anyway.
Yeah, I reckon. So tell me first, like, what would you girls be doing if you weren't talking to me right now? What's on the calendar today?
We were just doing some work on our kitchen bench. It's kind of weird. Like we have like these big, massive computers, but we always have like a smoothie and like work at the kitchen bench. So what was I doing? I was doing like email stuff, and what were you doing? Like I don't even know what
I was doing.
It was like laptop work. So it's definitely not all like, you know, it's not all getting out and about and being outside. There is a lot of computer work and laptop work, but it's lots of fun as well. I mean, we had the music blasting, so that's what we were doing. Yeah. And also Snapchatting the whole thing too. So
and like, how does because you know, you girls live together, so how does your morning roll? Like, do you both have rituals so that you know that when you do, because it's so easy to just go straight onto the laptop in the morning. How do you know you're doing something productive?
Like this is
a struggle.
It's struggle town for us. I mean, like we're kind of bad in that, like
we're very bad.
We just like want to get into work, and then it's like, man, we've been working like the whole day and like haven't had breaks. Like, I mean, we go to yoga and go for coffee and like do our own thing, like go for separate beach walks and stuff like that. But it is kind of like when you live together, when you work together, like it's bloody hard.
Yeah, we've kind of just realized like how hard it is. Like, and I think it was because like we made the move from Canberra to the Gold Coast. So it was like in Canberra we had like our own like friendship groups all set up and stuff like that. So we could go and hang out with our friends. But then we come to a new city and it's like, oh, this is brand new. You have to make new friends. You have to like get out there. So it's kind of been this like bit of a process since February of us being like, oh, this is different, but working it out. So it's all fun. And I think the most important thing that we've realized is like we're really aware of it. So as soon as it happens, we're like, okay, let's change up something. Let's make it more fun. Let's do separate things.
And how long have you been on the Gold Coast?
Since February this year. So just over 6 months.
And why? What prompted the move?
Well, we wanted to get out of Canberra anyway, so we kind of were like looking at Sydney, and we wanted to live near the water. And we're not actually, like, I don't really like Sydney all the time. Like I love Sydney for like, 3 days, a little burst of big city. And then I'm like, okay, I've had enough. And then I actually met my boyfriend in 2015 and he lived on the Gold Coast. So we were kind of like doing long distance thing and I was coming up here lots and it was like, wow, Gold Coast is kind of epic. And Carla came up a couple times and she you fell in love with Gold Coast and I loved it up here. So it was like, well, let's move up there and bloody hell, the rent's a lot cheaper and you live right near the beach. So, and it's a little bit more smaller town than, well, it's kind of like a small town really compared to Sydney.
Super small town.
And like it's close to Byron. So that's fun. And it's just beautiful. Just to be outside all the time and in the sunshine and really there is no winter up here. And coming from Canberra where like winter is like most of the year, like this is just really good.
Yeah, I'm a Melbourne girl. It's pretty cold down here too, although not quite as cold as Canberra, I don't think. So, yeah.
And I think like Melbourne, like I know, like I love Canberra, but it's, like when you've just grown up in a small town, like it is Canberra's small town too, like it's kind of like we just needed to get out. It was like, okay, I've been living in this same diameter for like so long. Like we were living in the next suburb along from where we grew up. And it was just like, man, what the hell are we doing? Like we literally are not, like we're not leading these lives that are typical, get in your 20s, get married, have children, work in your full-time job. Like we're leading these different lives. Why are we living in the suburbs of Canberra? It just made no sense to us when we have the freedom to live wherever we want in the world. It was like, why are we staying here? Yeah. And it's because our mum and dad are there and we love them. So we miss them a lot, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, and it's so good that you've got, you've built a business around being anywhere. So you've got that flexibility, which is cool. Like I could not do my day job from the Gold Coast. It just wouldn't work because it just wouldn't. So yeah, that's awesome. So let's get into it. I wanted to, like the last time we spoke, which was actually almost 2 years ago, if you can believe that. Yes. Oh. So you were like the Instagram superstars, you were the paleo girls. It was, I think even I was thinking back when we talked, your business model even was about, you were doing quite a bit of more sponsored collaborations. I think you were just starting to speak a bit more and thinking, I think you were considering live events. So I'm just kind of like, wow, there's a lot has happened in that time. And even I was like, wow, your message has changed a lot. Like, I mean, obviously probably the most high profile thing is that you stepped away from the paleo message. And I guess I just wanted to kind of get a feel from you. Firstly, like what has the last 2 years felt like for you if you were trying to sum it up?
Far out. I mean,
just hearing that is crazy. It feels like it doesn't even feel like me anymore. Like when I hear that, which is really interesting.
I think it's been, it's been 2 years of full-time merrymaking now, hasn't it? Like is that what it is? So, I mean, it's been a crazy ride, like full of amazing highs and then like real massive struggles as well. Like, I mean, anyone who is in business knows that it's not all like yes, go with the flow and think positive, but shit still happens, like stuff goes wrong. And I mean, like there's been so much stuff that has just been a complete mess and gone wrong, but we've just trained ourselves to see it as blessings in disguise. So I just look back and I'm like, wow, we've bloody done a lot. And I mean, and the messages thing, like the message of leaving the whole paleo thing behind, I mean, that was just a really good decision for us because we were no longer eating paleo 100% of the time. And when you're not being 100% authentic online, there's just something yuck about it. Like it doesn't feel right. And when you're doing it as a full-time business, it's really important to stay true to yourself. So putting that out in the world not only was good for us, but it attracted our right audience as well. And I mean, yes, we got some flack about it. Yes, people just said that we were hopping off the paleo bandwagon for media and attention. And we're like, you know what? It's just for us and to find our people. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it just allowed people to because we spoke our truth then people were like, oh, that's me too. And so we just attracted those people. And we've definitely seen the difference in like the kind of people who are like joining our club, the kind of people who are commenting on our Facebook pages and Instagram pages. Like it's just like gotten, I reckon, even more positive, like from sharing that. So I think it's just been a great, huge blessing.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, just it's been an epic 2 years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Epic.
Let's call it epic.
It has. And I just want to ask, like right before, so you talked about like when you actually did share that that shift from not being 100% paleo, I'm wondering, because, you know, once you shared it and you realized, you know, I mean, you said you got a bit of flack, but all the media that I found was kind of overwhelmingly positive about you girls. And I think you've sort of built a really positive brand, which is great. But I mean, Australia can be very unforgiving to people, particularly in the health and wellness space, who do change their message or do anything that the media want to kind of jump on and make an example of. So I guess, like, what about that moment before you published? Like, how long did it feel like you were living with that indecision, and how did you kind of get to the point where you went, you know what, we just got to do this?
It was just kind of like this thing we kept talking about. We probably should write about that. We probably should write about it. It wasn't like this thing lurking in our heads where we were like so worried about it. Just one Saturday afternoon, I was like, oh, I'm going to finally get off my butt and write this blog post. Because, you know, like sometimes writing a blog post is quite hard. And I just sat and wrote, like literally like word vomited for like 20 minutes. And I was like, wow, that's pretty damn good. Then Carla read it and edited it.
I read it and I put some photos in. Yeah. I was like, this is really good. I think we should just publish it.
And then we just hit publish and went out to yoga and dinner with friends or something. Then we came back, like we put it on Facebook as well, and we were like, oh my gosh, like it just had been shared and liked and comments like left, right and center. There was
so funny.
And so many comments on the blog. We were like, geez, we really didn't expect that. And like it was kind of exciting to know that, you know, it did resonate with so many people. And I think, you know, that's why we all put ourselves online, isn't it? Like we create these communities and like connect with people around the world. So when something is like taken like that and, you know, it gets traction and attention, it's like, whoa, like now I know why, like it's a good reminder of why we do it.
How fascinating though that it didn't feel like that big a shift for you. But to your audience, it was obviously it had a bigger impact. Like, do you think that happens a lot when you're so close to your business?
You know what? It's because we were living it for like a long time, and we just forgot that we were like, oh, we should probably share this. Like we'd shared a few snippets like on there probably would have been like some Instagram posts where people were like, well, that's not 100% paleo, but no one really questioned it. But it was kind of because we were living it. It didn't feel like it was this big shift. So we just put it out there and thought, oh, it might just get like lost with all the other content there. Like I really didn't think it was going to happen like that. And then it did, and I was just like, okay, what are we doing now with this? So we kind of, I mean, I remember like even our local newspaper, they called us and they're like, we need a comment on this and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, just like two girls changing the way they eat. Like how could that be newsworthy? But it was awesome. And it ended up being like a really positive change for us. And we just felt better with ourselves, and as we said, the right people just like flew into our customer base. So it was awesome.
That's brilliant. I love it. So, I mean, how are your roles different in the business now? Do you have really distinct roles?
Yeah, like I think what we try and do is like we play to our strengths. So like Emma's like super creative and like comes up with heaps of amazing ideas and is like, we should try this, we should do that. I want to write about this. And then I'm like, okay, yes, that's a really good idea. And this is how we're going to do it. And I kind of like project manage it out. Like what are the little tasks that, you know, that are so particular, like one tiny little email that is going to make all the difference. And like I just break it down into tiny little tasks and then we delegate it out. And I think that's kind of how far we've gotten with our roles. Just like this month we've been chatting about like, do we actually want to like create certain roles where like one of us is completely in charge of that and one of us is completely in charge of something else and whatever, but we haven't really like decided what that might look like yet.
I think it's like I guess we kind of just created this blog that turned into a business, and we never really looked at it like a proper business until we were doing it full time, and it was like, oh, like we've got to get everything in order now. And it's like, it's like one step after another, and it's like now we probably are ready to like properly define our roles, like a proper real life business, and not just be like, okay, you like doing that or you always do that. So I think like we went to this conference in Thailand, and we were surrounded by people with online businesses. I mean, like the final keynote speaker had just created this business, and he makes $800,000 a month on software. And we're just like, geez, like people do amazing things. And then we're like, okay, we want to look at our business like a proper business, not just like two sisters and like VAs. Like we want to like think like the bigger businesses so we can just get everything in order. And of course, when we have that foundation set and like all those little things like the job roles and the finances and all the boring stuff, to be honest, everything else is going to flow better, and we'll be able to express ourselves creatively as well. So like that conference really inspired us to knuckle down and get the foundations really in order.
Yeah, like we've got the foundations, but they're not set.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing that that's been the block probably for like our growth. Like we've grown heaps, but I know that like the next level, in order to get there, we need to get the foundations set, our roles completely worked out, and grow the team.
And it's also like being aware that it's always going to change. So like, if it's set, you get it set, but it's like, okay, if you want to grow more, or if you want to change it, like that's when you just have to reevaluate what's not working, what is working, change things up. Like we are big believers in having fun in our business. So if Carla's been doing this job for a long time, or this one aspect, and then she's like, oh, like I hate it. Like for example, like we've been working on our Merrymaker recipe app, and I mean, this was meant to be like a product we were going to launch really fast, and it's just dragged out. And Carla just was like hating it, like literally so angry with this project because everything was going wrong. And I was like, man, like I'm so pumped about this project. I need to take it over. So you stop putting the hate into it, and I'm going to put some love into it.
Because she hadn't done anything. It's no idea.
But that's the point. That's what I'm trying to explain. That it is really important to like reevaluate who works on what and play to strengths, but also play to what you want to do. Because I mean, to be honest, like it'd be way easier to just work in a salary job. Like we could just do that thing and leave it. But like this is where like the joy is and the fun is, but we're going to make sure we keep putting that joy and fun into the business.
Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it gets like even our lives, which like seem so crazy and amazing to people who would work a 9 to 5, it's like, no, like they can also get monotonous for us. Like where is the fun? Like we've got to like try new things and add more joy every single day. Like it's something we continue to have to work on.
Yeah, 100%. And was that Tropical Think Tank, the conference that you're talking about?
No, it was called Dynamite Circle.
Yeah,
so
new one.
It's epic. Holy moly. Like,
Okay.
Tropical Think Tank was epic, but this was epic.
This was like 250 delegates, so like more like a normal conference kind of thing with like keynotes and things like that, whereas Tropical Think Tank was more that mastermind style. Both amazing events, but I think the people at this event were totally different to any people we'd ever met.
So they weren't internet marketers, they weren't bloggers, they were like proper full-on digital nomads, like just like traveling Asia and
doing
Europe.
the weirdest stuff.
And like their businesses are just like, oh, what? Like, what do you do? And like, it's so exciting when you meet people who you're just like, how the hell do you make money off that?
Yes.
And they're just like living these lives that they love. And I think, like no matter what niche or field you're in, if you meet someone who loves what they do, like there's just something magic to that. And I mean, we just met a whole bunch of those people, and people just like making massive impact, and like that's what we're all about. Like, what can we do to make a positive impact on this planet?
That's huge. I think it's so important to meet people like that, because I think you've got to, the possibilities are kind of endless in this modern world, but you can forget that. You can feel really restrained. So that's awesome.
We came away from that conference and it was like anything is possible. If we have an idea, we can do it. Like you know how sometimes you have an idea, you're like, oh yeah, but I wouldn't know how to start and I wouldn't know what to do with that. We left this conference thinking we can do it, and also meeting people that we could go and reach out for help or just advice. Like that's the magic.
And I think like that was the big realization that for most things, for most goals and dreams, we are our own blocks. Like we set up these limiting beliefs, and you know, it might be created from Facebook or society or from when you're a kid or just whatever, education. It's like we need to like consciously choose not to believe the stuff we tell ourselves, and you know, like find the thing that helps us get rid of those like limiting negative beliefs. So if that's attending conferences like this, if that's keeping in touch with people who inspire you or listening to podcasts, like just make sure you're doing that a little bit every day or just every week even. I mean, because it's a funny thing when you attend a conference or you get really inspired, because then you come home and it's like, oh, like you kind of get like that come down. You're like really high, and then you like have this downer, and it's like, man, like you got to like tap into that motivation and inspiration. Yeah. So like even like talking to you, Katie, it's like this is so fun reliving it. It's like, oh my God, I'm motivated. We're gonna have a really good day after this.
Oh, good. And you know, that is gold, what you just said then about you, like, we are our own blocks. We are the biggest blocks we'll ever face. It's just it's right here. So that means we can fix it because it's right here.
I know, and isn't that the most exciting thing?
Yeah.
That we can make the change.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so like you've built a multi-six-figure business, which is kind of awesome. And so I have a question that's actually like 3 questions.
Yeah.
But I want to know, like I'm really obsessed with The One Thing and Essentialism, which are 2 books that I've read recently. Love them. And I want to know, like, what is the one thing that you would say has had the biggest impact on your success, but in the context of what's one connection that you've made, one tactical strategy you've used, and one mindset hack or practice that you've committed to?
So connection as in like people connection?
Yeah, it could be the event that you went to. It could be just somebody that you've met that you've sort of nurtured and that's turned into something amazing.
Okay, so there's 3 things.
Well, okay, the connection, I think Tropical Think Tank, the first conference we went that in 2015, I think that was game changer for our business, in that we just learned so much and we met so many amazing people. I mean, that's where I met Dan, and I mean, he's really helped our business a lot, kind of like just steered our eyes to be bigger, like to think bigger. So like that was like a really limiting belief I think that we had, and it helped us. What was the next thing?
So the next one is one tactical strategy. So just the one thing that you think you've done in your business that's really been, you know, behind 80% of the results.
Oh gosh.
What about
I would say email automation. Yeah, because we used to use mail. Probably when we first talked, we were still using MailChimp and just list-based emails. And then Tropical Think Tank actually opened our eyes again, the first one, to like sales funnels and email automation and list segmentation, which we really had absolutely no idea about. And then Dan actually showed us Drip, which is what we use now, which is like ConverterKit or Active Campaign. And it's just like allowed us to get to know our audience better and send more emails, like keep in touch with our audience. Like before we just weren't even using our list. Like we weren't even contacting them. And it's like, well, they want to hear from us. They've said yes. So we may as well give them some value. And I think that has just helped us be a lot more strategic and think more about what our audience wants and get to know them better. Yeah. So that would be definitely the thing.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much the tactic that we use to do all of our launches, most of our sales and things like that, as well as Facebook ads only recently, like with our launches and stuff. And the other question was a mindset.
Yeah. So what mindset practice that do you think served you the best?
Oh, so many.
There's so many, but would it be follow your bliss? Like the biggest.
But is that the thing that we come back to? Like what do we come back to when we're like struggling, and we're
It's
like,
gratitude. It's gratitude. Always.
Yeah, love
Has
it.
to be. Oh.
yeah, it's like we're going through a crap time, and like you just come back to gratitude and you're like, okay, the thing that I was worried about isn't such a big thing, and like I have everything I need right now, and just knowing that that's the best thing in the whole entire world. Like, even though we want to achieve these goals, even though we want to get to another place and reach another level, like right now we're still so content and we have everything we need, so we don't need to stress, we don't need to be anxious, like just enjoy.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. And the one I also forgot to mention, another thing that's changed in the last 2 years is you've got a podcast now.
Oh yeah.
That's so cool, right?
It is so cool, and it's, right up there at the top of the charts, which is awesome. And it was funny actually, because when I first was doing my research for our interview, I was like, oh, like they're doing a podcast and it's kind of more about business than about their sort of Merrymaker, recipes and healthy living and that. So I was like, what's that about? Like, what role is it playing in your business? And so,
Yeah.
and I've seen you've since launched a program that's probably a little bit more aligned, like about content marketing and blogging. But I'd love to hear from you, like when you decided to do a podcast, what was the strategy behind it?
Strategy. What is this word?
What is that?
So we launched the podcast as part of Dan Norris, my boyfriend. He's mentioned all the time. In his 7-day startup challenge, it was like, he was kind of like, what are you guys going to do in the challenge? It was his first time. We're like,
oh, we don't know. Like we don't have anything. And then we knew we wanted to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, you've got to launch your podcast. Like, you've got to do that. And we're like, oh my gosh, in 7 days.
It just seemed like a really big task.
Yeah.
And it was a really big task.
Yeah. And so then we were thinking, okay, well, what do we want our podcast to be about? And we were thinking like, well, what are the podcasts we love listening to? We listen to business podcasts. We listen to like mindset podcasts. We never really listen to like wellness or health podcasts at all. So we're like, well, we want to do business. And we obviously always had the follow your bliss message from the very beginning of starting Merrymakers, even before it was a full-time thing. Like, we just fell in love with that follow your bliss message. It made so much sense. And we're like, well, let's make the podcast the bliss side of things. And that's kind of how Merrybiz came about. And it is about business, but it's also about passion and dreams and just people doing epic stuff and changing the world and people having fun.
Yeah. And like we talk about, tactics as well. So like we have episodes about business
Opt-ins.
stuff, like opt-ins and like I can't even remember what, like sponsorship, like
Snapchat.
Yeah, like all these different things that are just like play important roles in our business. And we're like, well, we don't want to keep it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we have fun telling other people what we have done, and in hope that they can get inspired or learn something and improve their business or like start a business as well.
It's probably our most favorite thing to talk about.
And and now we have launched Merrybiz Hustle, which is kind of like this 4-week live thing that's just all about like ticking goals off, like with
Taking
content
action.
marketing and email opt-ins and brand work and also Facebook ads and social media. And then we'll turn that into an evergreen product as well. So we actually do have an aligned product to go with our epic podcast, because we realized, you know what, like we're in the business of business. We probably should be trying to monetize our podcast. And of course, we're going to add extra value to that product too. So like, it's like we needed to do that to show people that it is all possible, and ourselves as well, that, you can change your direction. You can change, even if something has traction, you can add another layer or add another part to it.
Absolutely. And I mean, it makes sense that people who have observed your journey and your growth are going to love the idea of learning from you, how you've done it and who you've learned from and the skills that you've picked up.
Yeah, we kind of we realized that through our journey until the podcast that we learned all this stuff, and we were just like, imagine if we'd known that at the beginning. Like, that would have been so helpful. So that was kind of the idea. We were like, let's try and get to these people earlier, the people who were at where we are 2 years ago, and let's try and like get them up to speed. So because we kind of learned everything randomly. We didn't even know what a podcast was until just before Tropical Think Tank the first year. So that was kind of the idea around it. And gosh, it's just so much fun. We're all about following the fun. So it's like, do more of that.
Yeah. And look, you've mentioned passion and fun and your bliss like a lot. And I guess the one thing that sometimes comes up for me is that, there's a lot of people with passions out there. And I think there's a lot of people telling everyone that they can turn any passion into a business, but often without the tools or the strategy, again, there's that word again, to know how to do it. So if someone came to you and said, I'm really passionate about X, like, how do I even know that I can turn this into a business? Where would you tell them to start?
Do you know what? Like, I honestly don't believe that business is for everyone. And I think even if you are that passionate, it doesn't mean you're going to have an epic business, because there's a lot of hard work that goes into creating and sustaining and maintaining and growing a business. Like, there's a lot of hustle involved. I know, like, people like to say that, you find your passion and, the doors are open, like Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. And it is totally true. But like, along with that comes the hard work, or
you got to paddle down the floor.
Yeah.
And you got to do the work.
And it also comes with like, hiring the team and expanding and like having the guts to like take the risk as well. Like, there's so much involved. So like, we don't actually always tell people if you love something that much, it's going to work. We say, like, if you want it bad enough and if you're passionate, but if if you're prepared to put in the work, like, go for it. And you know what? Like, stuff is going to go wrong. Like, it's going to 100%, there's going to be something really bad that happens in your business, but that's just like course correction, leading you in another direction. And that's what we always say. Like, if one thing doesn't work, we just go another way, right?
Yeah, definitely. And back to the passion stuff, like, I think the most important thing is that you have passions or blisses in your life, even if they're not your career. If you can add like 5 minutes every day to your life is going to get better. Like, you don't have to have a business to have an epic life. Like, you can work a 9 to 5 and be so happy in that job and love that job, and then add like painting or drawing or dancing or whatever it might be to your afternoon. And that's the thing, like, that's our message. Like, yes, we love it when people are like, oh my God, I want to create this business and blah, 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 blah. And we want to help them so badly, like, build it. But yeah, like, you don't have to turn, every passion won't become a business. Like, it can't. Like,
yeah, and there's so many random things involved as well with like successful businesses. I mean, it's like all about timing and like trends, and if our blog probably got big because it was just the perfect timing for a paleo blog to start in Australia. Like, we'll be honest there. Like, and then of course, we put ourselves in it and made it authentic, and that helped as well. But there's all these little random things that create success, and a lot of hard work as well. So there's no like cookie cutter way of success. We know that if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen though.
Yeah, and it's all about just keeping on doing.
Yeah, action.
Yeah, action. Like, if something doesn't work, then you try something different, and then you move on, and you just keep going until like you find multiple things that are working, and then you keep trying again. Like, we're forever thinking of new ideas and what else could we do and how could we add that? How can we make that better? Like, there's not a day where we're like, we've got it sorted.
Yeah, never.
No, I'm really glad you said that, because I think luck and good timing can play a huge part, especially in the businesses that we think, oh my gosh, like that was like an overnight success. What happened there? But if you don't have the timing or the luck, you can still make up for it with consistency and hustle and hard work. So I love that. Love, love, love. Well, that's probably a really cool place to end. So where is the best place for people to come and stalk you girls online if they're not doing it already?
Yes, well, everything that you need, if it's a recipe, if it's the podcast, if it's mindset advice, you can hop on over to getmerry.com. And that's a very exciting call to action, because we just set up a redirect to getmerry.com, which redirects to the merrymakersisters.com. But how much easier is getmerry.com?
So much easier.
I'm so excited about it.
That is cool. And it's the small things, right? Who's going to forget Get Merry? Brilliant. Oh, thanks so much, girls. It was amazing to do another episode with you after 2 years.
Oh,
My
thank you
God,
so
so
much
much.
for having us again. We can't wait to have you on our show.
Yay, I'm so excited. How fun was it to catch up with Emma and Carla again? Will you tweet us and let the girls know that you heard them here? Their Twitter is the Sisters, and I'm at Katie T. Wyatt. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, I am going to be back with a super raw solo show that I recorded unscripted on the beach in Lorne on the Great Ocean Road last weekend. Spoiler alert, I may have gotten teary. Say what? I know. Subscribe right now to catch it when it falls, and I will so see you here this time next week. We've loved contributing to your empire building today. Please share us with a fellow empire builder so that we can help them too. Remember, hashtag 100K Empire Army. Thank you to Luke at the Wellness Pro for production and editing, to all of our guests, and to you, our most important empire building listeners. You should also check out my other podcast, hashtag Ladyboss Chats, where Elle Roberts and I chat all things Ladyboss life. We feel like you've just pulled up a cozy armchair with your biz bestie. Find us in your favourite podcast app or at theladybossproject.com.